Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Okay, so let's continue. Canto 5, the Creative Impetus, Chapter 14, Material World as the Great Forest of Enjoyment, Text 2.
Yasyam yuhava etasat indriya namanaha karmana dasyava evate tad yatha purushasya dhanam yat kinchit dharmopayikam bahu kruchradhigata gatam sakshat paramapurusharadhana lakshano yo asau dharmastamtu samparaya udaharanti tad dharmyam dhanam darshana sparshana shravana swadana vagrana sankalpa vyavasaya griha gramyopabhogena kunatasyajitatmano yata sartasya vilumpati panti.
In the forest of material existence, the uncontrolled senses are like plunderers. The conditioned soul may earn some money for the advancement of Krishna consciousness, but unfortunately the uncontrolled senses plunders money through sense gratification. The senses are plunderers because they make one spend his money unnecessarily for seeing, smelling, tasting, touching, hearing, desiring and willing. In this way, the conditioned soul is obliged to gratify his senses and thus all his money is spent. This money is actually acquired for the execution of religious principles, but it is taken away by the plundering senses. In text 1 we saw how he is suffering, the living entity. Now it is explained how this is happening. So it's based on senses. One of the things we, as practitioners of bhakti, we have to remember that we need to always control our senses and the mind and senses. If we can't do that, it's very hard to practice bhakti yoga. Yeah, not possible actually. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada highlights, like he says, one may be rich, learned, beautiful, or highborn. One who has all these assets should know that they are all meant for the advancement of Krishna consciousness. Who said this? If you remember, in the first canto, Kunti says this. Janmaishvarya Shutashive Yadamana Mada Puman Naiva Harti Avidatum Vai Tvam Akinchana Gocharam. So it's explained like that. They are meant for the advancement of Krishna consciousness. They are not meant for one's own sense gratification. So again he is highlighting that the movement is meant for that, to teach people how to control the mind and the senses. We are not here for anything else actually. Once you give the people what the goal of life is and then tell them how to achieve that by controlling the senses, it becomes very easy for them to actually pursue it. And towards the end, Srila Prabhupada basically tells us how to use all the senses in the service. And the prime example of a person who uses all his senses is Ambarish Maharaj. Yeah. Everything he uses. So that's also one way of understanding how he did use his senses. Similarly, we also have to reflect on our own activities and how we are going to use it in the service of Krishna. Text 3.
Atacha yatra kautumbika darapatyadayo namna karmana vraka shrigala evanichato api kadaryasya kutumbina uranakavat samrakshamanam mishato api haranti.
Where a king, family members in this material world go under the names of wife and children, or you can say husband and children, but actually they behave like tigers and jackals. A herdsman tries to protect his sheep to the best of his ability, but the tigers and foxes take them away by force. Similarly, although a miserly man wants to guard his money very carefully, his family members take away all his assets forcibly, even though he is very vigilant. So Srila Prabhupada gives in the purport how this happens. He gives a few examples. So, what we need to understand is, because we are meeting so many different types of people, when we speak, we are actually preaching. So, we should understand these examples are for different class of men also. Alright? It shouldn't be used against devotees. But this is for there are different types of people, and for them this may make sense, because that's how they see life, perspective. So therefore you can see it's a different class of men, you preach differently, and then there's this you can say in a sense is another group of plunderers. Beginning we saw the censors were the plunderers, now you're seeing family members are also plunderers if they are not Krishna conscious. Text 4.
यथा ह्य अनुवत्सरं कृष्यमाणम् अभ्यदग बीजं क्षेत्रं पुनरेवावपानकाले गुल्म तृणविरुद्भिर्गह्वरम् इव भवत्येवम् एव गृहाश्रमः कर्मक्षेत्रं यस्मिन् न हि कर्मण्युता उत्सिदन्ति यत् अयं कामकारन्द एष आवसतः.
Every year the plowman plows over his grain field, completely uprooting all weeds. Nonetheless, the seeds lie there, and not being completely burned, again come up with the plants sown in the field. Even after being plowed under, the weeds come up densely. Similarly, the Grihastha ashram, family life, is a field of fruitive activity. Unless the desire to enjoy family life is completely burned out, it grows up again and again. Even though camphor may be removed from a pot, the pot nonetheless retains the aroma of camphor. As long as the seeds of desire are not destroyed, fruitive activities are not destroyed. So very important to know what kind of desire we need to cultivate. Can't just cultivate any type of desire we like. So Prabhupada highlights also how even a sannyasi in ISKCON, even if they take, if they have not truly renounced it, then they will fall down also. And then at the risk of disgracing his own name. Infamy is worse than death itself. It's all personal contemplation. Trying to think, how about myself and so on. Text 5.
तत्र गतो दंसमसक समापसदैर् मनुजैः शलभ साकुण्ठतस्कर मुषाकादिभिर् उपरुन्ध्यमान बहिः प्राणः क्वचित् परिवर्तमानो अस्मिन् अध्वान्य अविद्या कामकर्मभिर् उपरक्त मनसानुपपन्नार्थं नरलोकं गन्धर्वनगरम् उपपन्नम इति मिथ्य दृष्टिर अनुपश्यति.
Translation: sometimes the conditioned soul in household life, being attached to material wealth and possessions, is disturbed by envious men who are like gadflies and mosquitoes. And sometimes is troubled by thieves who are like locusts, birds of prey and rats. Nonetheless, he still wanders down the path of material existence. Due to ignorance, he becomes lusty and engages in fruitive activity. Because his mind is absorbed in these activities, he sees the material world as permanent, although it is temporary, like a phantasmagoria, a house in the sky. Okay, so here you will notice the emphasis is there is no good guru, actually. Because he's going around looking for some shelter and he's always getting disturbed by one person or another person. And it all happens because the living entity is not looking towards the right source. He's looking at the material place to look, try to enjoy, thinking this will give him happiness. All due to ignorance. So this is again the same thing that was discussed earlier on in the previous chapter. Hari Guru Charana Aravinda. Remember? So here Srila Prabhupada highlights that one should take shelter of Lord Nityananda. Because who is Nityananda? He is the original. Yeah. So very interesting how Prabhupada connects to the translation, the text 6.
तत्र च क्वचित् आतोपोदक निभान विषयान उपधावति पानभोजन व्यवयादि व्यसन लोलुपः.
Sometimes in this house, in the sky, Gandharvapura, the conditioned soul drinks, he eats and has sex. Being overly attached, he chases after the objects of the senses just as a deer chases a mirage in the desert. Right? So everyone goes looking for answers. Sometimes they think they will be okay. Right? Even many of us, we think we will be better in America, we come here. We find it's not really that better, or in fact we'll find this is worse. And then some people from America, they go to Canada, they say it's better than America. And then some people then realize it's actually not good, let me go back to India like that. And then different countries they all do that. Huh?
After some time they come back.
Yeah.
They
That,
have become more worse now, they will come back.
yeah. So the point is they're never going to get peace anyway. Yeah. This place is Dukhalayam Ashashvam, which is what Prabhupada says. No pleasure here in the material world. It's all dualities. You cannot be satisfied. Text 7.
क्वचित् चाशेष दोष निषदानं पुरीश विशेषं
Varna.
तद्वर्ण गुण निर्मित मतिः सुवर्णम उपादित्सत्य अग्नि काम कापर इवोन्मुख पिशाचम.
Sometimes the living entity is interested in the yellow stool known as goal and runs after it. That goal is the source of material opulence and envy. And it can enable one to afford illicit sex, gambling, meat eating and intoxication. Those whose minds are overcome by the mode of passion are attracted by the color of gold. Just as a man suffering from cold in the forest runs after phosphorescent light in a marshy land, considering it to be fire. And very nicely Srila Prabhupada connects to the first canto by Parikshit Maharaj, threatens Kali, who then takes shelter, or he gives him 4 places: brothels, liquor shops, slaughterhouses and gambling casinos. And he gave one more, gold. Yeah. So wherever there is gold, you find all these 4 can take place when it's not used in the service of Krishna. Prabhupada, like I said, he likes to use the word brothels. This is used in the old way, but nowadays they use it as whorehouse, all those funny names have, because people want to be keeping in with the time. So everything, it's like if you are a shop assistant, they'll say you are the shop officer, right? Something they will say. Assistant manager, but actually is selling only. Alright. So similarly, wherever there is gold, there is also terrible life situations. So if you really look into the world situation, you look at South Africa, right? Gold mines. How much terrible crimes are going on there. Look at Johannesburg. If you all read about the history, you will see all these places are terribly put into difficult situations. So wherever there is gold, life situation goes upside down. The value system is thrown out. The Africans, they used to live a certain code and standard in the village. They used to farm and all. Once the gold farms you can say, that came up, then all these young men all left the farms. And then the whole family traditions were given up, and then they all became criminals. Not all, but in general, they try to make a living, and then they are exploited by people and they go into prostitution meat eating, gambling, intoxication. Right? Text 8.
अतः
Yeah.
Sorry. So, but Prabhupada also says that in Vedic time, gold was a symbol of opulence. And
Yes, it
gold
is.
and grains.
It has to be used properly, as I mentioned earlier.
Okay.
Yeah. Now this is it's why do people get gold now?
just decorate.
Decoration, prestige,
Prestige.
Yeah, show off I am wealthy and so on. But if you study carefully the Vedic culture, they were not using it to show off their opulence. Rather, they were showing off that the Lord has all this opulence. Generally, they will decorate the Lord with a lot of opulence, and the kings and queens they will wear to show that they are representing the Supreme Lord. Not because they want to show off like that. The royalty is a reflection of the Supreme Lord. The king and queen are representative for Narayana and Lakshmi. Yeah, so that's how they were meant to look up to them, and they are supposed to be good guides and so on like that. So yeah, opulence, yes, but ever since Kali Yuga came, that opulence has been shunned, or not shunned, covered by Kali. So gold is covered by Kali. So the 4 sinful activities are embedded in it unless you use it properly. So it doesn't mean you all don't wear gold and then throw away like that. No. You offer it to Krishna, then Radharani, and you wear it. Yeah, like that. But only wear it for the pleasure of the deities, like that, not for yourself. Huh?
It becomes something simple.
Yeah, make it simple. Yeah.
Prabhu, one question actually there. Like wearing, if we wear, like for the pleasure of the deities, like we are wearing, what pleasure are we giving them? Like, in case of king and queen, it's
You can say like that, right? But you can't say when you wear. See, sometimes the Lord wants us to also be nicely presentable also. We are not paupers, right?
Just like when we go to someone's party, right? The host won't be happy if you don't dress up nicely, right?
but that doesn't mean that you have to wear 20 chains. And,
Yeah.
No,
That's
but
what it
it all depends on
Huh?
the occasion.
It has to be something simple.
Yeah, it's
Women
simple.
always has to wear some gold.
Not to show off. The whole idea is not to show off. It's just to present nicely.
It is Shastri. Women has to wear gold.
Yeah, somewhat dress nicely. Yeah. Text 8.
अतः कदाचिन् निवास पानीय द्रविणाभि अनेकात्मनोपजीवनाभिनिवेश एतस्यां संसारतव्याम् इतस्ततः परिधावति.
Sometimes the conditioned soul is absorbed in finding residential quarters or apartments and getting a supply of water and riches to maintain his body. Absorbed in acquiring a variety of necessities, he forgets everything and perpetually runs around the forest of material existence. So basically, do we have artificial necessities? Do all of us have some artificial? Or do we just only have enough bodily necessities? And that's it. The whole idea is, what are we absorbed in? Acquiring what kind of necessities, right? So life itself, in material life, or you can say in Kali Yuga, it's based on extravaganza, more than necessary, right? If you can live in a simple house, why buy a big house? So people will say investment. For who? Oh, in 10 years I'll use it. But then you can't even climb in 10 years time, you can't climb the stairwell. Or 20 years time. So then what is the purpose, right? Yeah. Even if you have $1 million but you lose your legs, then what is the joy? Right? People don't think like that. Because we always think we are going to be able to enjoy, The whole ideology behind the present living conditions in the society is that you are going to enjoy when you retire. You're going to be so happy when you retire. But they fail to say that you will suffer, you'll be old, you cannot really understand, you cannot sunbathe anymore because you can't. Things like that. They don't say all that. Rather, they manufacture these artificial desires with artificial things.
In Semamesh, there are a lot of retirement communities.
Yeah, so it's the same thing. All this. So what happens is your mental conditioning starts taking place. Oh, I'm going to be so happy, I'm so much. So devotees also get confused, There are some devotees who are thinking they will go and live in a retirement community because everything is provided. So they don't have to work. And then they say, well, let them cook, they will cook vegetarian also, we can offer. So you can see now mental conditioning, because they bought into this. So remember, we don't want to get sold out before we go back to Godhead. These are all traps, and the necessities of life must be carefully weighed. Otherwise, you have a problem. And these necessities are all concocted in the mind. So if you remember in the 5th chapter we read, and Jadabhara is explaining to King Rahugana that this is the mind is the source of all these problems. So in the beginning of this class I mentioned, you all have to learn how to control the mind and the senses. If you don't, no point even reading and memorizing these things. The practice of Krishna consciousness first begins with your sense control. Then your understanding will deepen, and your appreciation of Krishna will flourish. So then the question you need to always endeavor is, what is the bare necessities that I need to survive here? And then whatever if you think like that, you'll find you have enough time to actually love Krishna. Text 9.
क्वचिच्च वाक्यौपमायाय प्रमादयारोहम् आरोपितस्तत्काल रजसा रजनीभूत इवा साधु मर्यादो रजस् वलाक्षो अपि दिग्देवता अतिराजस् वलमतिर् न विजनाति.
Sometimes, as if blinded by the dust of a whirlwind, the conditioned soul sees the beauty of the opposite sex, which is called Pramada. Being thus bewildered, he is raised upon the lap of a woman, and at that time his good senses are overcome by the force of passion. He thus becomes almost blind with lusty desire and disobeys the rules and regulations governing sex life. He does not know that his disobedience is witnessed by different demigods, and he enjoys illicit sex in the dead of night, not seeing the future punishment awaiting him. The whole idea is even sex life is governed by rules, and one has to follow those rules. Otherwise, as Prabhupada quotes, Dharma virodha bhuteshu kamasmi varatarishabha. I am sex life, not contrary to religious principles. So that's the idea behind it. But in Kali Yuga, the living entity wants to enjoy and doesn't want to perform any austerities, penances or anything. So therefore they are always finding ways to enjoy sex. So anything aside from religious endeavor for sex is considered illicit sex. That's all. And therefore they fall under the category of sinful activities. So Prabhupada says, before the Asuram Yonim Apana verse, he says illicit sex is never excused, and those who indulge in it are punished life after life. And then he gives that verse Asuram Yonim Apana, because they all go after this. So one has to be very careful, because there are gradations of punishments. So illicit sex is considered one of the serious offences. Or as we were reading earlier on, in future there may be some kind of disease that you have to suffer because of illicit lifestyle also. Alright, text 10.
क्वचित् सक्र अवगत विषय वैतात्यः स्वयं पराभिध्यायेन विभ्रंसित स्मृतिस्तयैव मरीचि तोय प्रायांस्तान् एवाभिधावति.
The conditioned soul sometimes personally appreciates the futility of sense enjoyment in the material world, and he sometimes considers material enjoyment to be full of miseries. However, due to his strong bodily conception, his memory is destroyed, and then again and again he runs after material enjoyment, just as an animal runs after mirage in the desert. Right? This is the potency of the material energy. It's a given. You cannot actually escape without Krishna. Alright? You are actually, the reality is you cannot get out of this material world on your own. You're condemned to live here. Huh? Exactly. Yeah, you can't. And Krishna makes it very clear. You have to do what he gives that clue. This is the way to come to me. This is the way to get out of this. If you look at that chart there, you can see there's 8 layers covering. And so you can't get out. It's not possible. So when he realizes, oh, I am in a difficult situation, what happens is the material energy covers him. Avaranadmika Shakti. And then he bewilders him, Prashatmakmika Shakti. He thinks it's okay now. Everything is back to normal. So therefore, this idea takes place because of bodily conception. And that's another reason why you often see Srila Prabhupada always talks about you're not the body, you're not the body. Whoever you meet, you have to somehow or other make them realize that they are not the body. Somehow or other. We shouldn't try to be so smart and try to quote big things. Useless, pointless. The whole point is to give them Krishna. So, once you are in bodily conception, then the miseries you suffered is gone. And then you think, it's okay, now I will be successful. This time I will be okay. Just like gamblers, they go and gamble, and then they say, no, I was unlucky, tomorrow I will be lucky. So they go and they lose again. Because they are bigger cheaters than this guy. So they will load or cheat or whatever. And all they have very expert dealers who come, they've been practicing for 20 years how to throw a card and switch cards. You can't even see, their fingers are faster than your eyes. Just like in New York, you go, they play the 3, I don't know what you call it, but you put a seed under and then you turn the cups.
Oh yeah, that's all.
And then you are watching, the guy will show away, and then first time he'll let you win, and then second time you're gone. Then he'll say double or nothing, like that. All these are con. So material energy is like that. It says, you will enjoy, don't worry, it's okay, you just made some mistake, you'll be okay next time. I'm your well-wisher. So you cannot escape, there's no way, so what to do? Sangha. No, Sangha. Yeah. Through Sangha you surrender. You cannot surrender just like that. How to surrender? Who to surrender? So Sangha is very important. So association with devotees who are already practicing, or at least then you know how to surrender. Otherwise you will also be thinking you know better than them. You will be only convinced after associating with devotee that life is miserable. Truly miserable. Right? When devotees are like stones, all rough stones, so you put everything together, they'll cut each other. So then they'll hurt each other. But if you put a whole bunch in a bag and you keep rowing and rolling and rolling, after a while they all become smooth. Yeah. So that's why devotee association is valuable. At the same time, it's quite difficult. Yeah, tolerant. So you'll have to learn how to be very tolerant. Yeah? Krishna consciousness requires us to develop spiritual thick skin. Like that. So Prabhupada writes, by association with devotees, a person may become convinced. Prabhupada never says you will be convinced. He says may become convinced. Why? Because we have free will. Yeah. Of the material futility, but he cannot give up his engagement, although he is very eager to return home back to Godhead. Under these circumstances, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is situated in everyone's heart, compassionately takes away all the material possessions of such a devotee. As such, in Srimad Bhagavatam 10.8.8, Yashyaham manugranami harisye taddanam shane tato danam tyajadeyante swajana dukkha dukhitam. So, Lord Krishna says that he takes everything away from the devotee whom he especially favors when that devotee is overly attached to material possession. Now this only happens if this devotee is very sincere but cannot control himself. That means pure heart inside, He may do stupid things, but very sincere guy, but he can't. There are people like that, you will see. So the Lord will come in and say, oh, so do we all want this special mercy? Uh-huh. Oh, you all saying no?
Voluntarily do not like that.
Yeah, well, if you do voluntarily, Prabhupada and my Guru Maharaj will say it will be easier.
Yeah.
If Krishna takes charge of taking us back to Godhead, he'll drag you like a fish with a hook. It'll hurt. There was one story, not story, it really happened, in Bombay Juhu. Bombay Juhu. Yeah, so there was one Prabhupada servant, Ravi Gupta. So he was translating. And so he had a father. So his father would come and talk to Prabhupada every time. So Prabhupada would always tell him how to perform devotional activities and all. But he had some weakness because he liked to take his tea and all. He couldn't give up those things, So then one day he came to see his son. So when he came to see his son, then it so happened Prabhupada was there. He didn't want to meet Prabhupada. So Prabhupada was saying, how did you give up drinking your tea and all? He said, no, Prabhupada. He started looking down. Then he said, maybe, I'm trying, but I can. Maybe Krishna will have special mercy for me. Then Prabhupada said, huh? Special mercy? Then Prabhupada smiled and said, Yasyaham manugrinami. There is special mercy. Harishye tad dhanam shadai. And then Prabhupada said, he will give you special mercy. He'll take away all your money, and then nobody will like you. Then your own family members will give up on you, and your friends will leave you, and you'll be all alone in the fields. Then he said, Prabhupada, I don't want special mercy. I will do my best.
Normal mercy.
Yeah.
Plain dosa. Not today.
Yeah. So, you already have the most magnanimous mercy of Srila Prabhupada already. So if you want more than that, then Krishna will come in. So I thought that pastime was very nice to, bring it up to the point that, if you are sincere and you fail, Krishna will intervene for you. Depending on how, he will help you overcome your difficulties. Yeah. Then he is from the heart, he will give you the tesam. Satatam Vittanam Vachitam Pritibhuvam. Yeah. So he gives you the intelligence like that. But first he might pull your wisdom tooth and all. So you don't have any more material wisdom.
Without anesthesia.
Yeah, without anesthesia. Text 11.
क्वचित् पुलूकजिल्ली स्वनवद् अतिपुरुष रभसतोपं प्रत्यक्षं परोक्षं वा ऋतु राजकुल निर्भर्सितेनापि व्यतीत कर्णमूल हृदयः.
Sometimes the conditioned soul is very aggrieved by the chastisement of his enemies and government servants who use harsh words against him directly or indirectly. At that time his heart and ears become very saddened. Such chastisement may be compared to the sounds of owls and crickets. Same thing, he's just explaining it in a much easier way. We can't take chastisement not just only from enemies or government officials, even devotees try to correct one another also we can't take it. Because it hurts our pride and ego and faults, everything. So we try to sometimes justify what we do or say that person doesn't know my difficulties. Prabhupada doesn't understand what we are going through. Now in this age is different. Prabhupada came in the 60s, it's different. People talk like that and you hear like that, but it's not like that. Prabhupada is Trikala Gyan, or rather Krishna lets him see what is required for us. Some management is required, but how we manage is dependent on how sincerely we are following Srila Prabhupada's instructions. Text 12.
स यदा दुग्धपूर्व सुकृतस्तदा काराक्षर काकटुनाद्यदि अपुण्यद्रुम लता विशोद पानवत् उभयार्थ शून्य द्रविणान जीवन मृतान स्वयं जीवन mriyamana upadhavati.
Due to his pious activities in previous lives, the conditioned soul attains material facilities in this life. But when they are finished, he takes shelter of wealth and riches, which cannot help him in this life or the next. Because of this, he approaches the living death, who possess these things. Such people are compared to impure trees, creepers, and poisonous wells. The whole idea is that no matter what you do religiously, you shouldn't use it for sense gratification. That's all, right? In the first canto, we studied that, Sutta Goswami explains to them, right? Like, whatever you do, even when you're pursuing devotional life and you get some material benefit, you should not use those for sense gratification. Okay, so we are not meant to do that. And if you do that, then it's like enjoying the fruits of a poisonous tree. Right? The forbidden fruit. Adam and Eve, like that. So therefore, you will not be happy. You don't understand the philosophy properly, you won't be happy. Okay. Nayam lokasti na paro, na sukham, na samsayatmanaha. Okay. How can you be happy? You don't accept the rules of Krishna. So you won't be happy in this life nor in the next life. Krishna says that also, for one who doesn't want to follow in the scriptural injunctions. Rather he says, try to understand that everything is set up for us to get out. Actually this is perfectly situated. The material world is perfectly equipped for us to use it in the service of Krishna and leave it and go. Okay, that's all it's meant for. As Prabhupada used to say, a gentleman will use the toilet and will not stay inside. He'll get out. So this material world is like that. You use it as for the service of Krishna and you leave it. You can't take it with you. It's not meant for that. That's the main idea. Even if you are wealthy, if you get a lot of wealth, it should be used in the service of Krishna still, because otherwise it becomes anchors, right? If you, let's say you try to take all the gold with you everywhere, and then you're in the middle of a boat rowing, and then the boat capsizes, and you still don't want to let go of your gold. Yeah, you go down with the gold. So it should be engaged in the service of Krishna. Text 13.
Ekadasat prasangan nikrita matir vyudaka shrotaha slapnavad ubhayato api dukkadam pakandam abhiyati.
Sometimes, to mitigate distresses, in this forest of the material world, the conditioned soul receives cheap blessings from atheists. He then loses all intelligence in the association. This is exactly like jumping in a shallow river. As a result, one simply breaks his head. He is not able to mitigate his sufferings from the heat, and in both ways he suffers. The misguided conditioned soul also approaches so-called sadhus and swamis who preach against the principles of the Vedas. He does not receive benefit from them either in the present or in the future. Now, in particular, these sadhus and swamis are more common in the India or Indian Vedic culture, so-called culture groups. But in the Western society, you have Tony Robbins, yoga leaders, Deepak Chopras, people like that.
Various denomination of churches also.
Yeah,
like that.
exactly. Church leaders and all those people. Yeah. So they are all actually misguiding the poor soul, Self-help group, yeah, all this Tony Robbins kind of stuff, yeah. A lot of them, So, all for people who don't go for all this, their gurus are the news commentators, They will only watch this guy telling news. He is guru. If he says, it must be true. Or the weatherman. Or they believe in unrealistic things, like Star Wars, right? Fantasies like that. Yeah. Huh?
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter, all those kind of things. They are heroes for them. So they think life is like that. It is. It must be, because I believe in that. Yeah. It's all based on the mind. So again, unless you control this horrible mind, it will cheat you. It is always waiting to cheat you.
And then, or they're after scientists.
Scientists also, yeah. It's part of it, all of it. Yeah. They're all cheaters, basically under one category. Yeah. So you can see Prabhupada's point is you need to get a proper spiritual master. Not to be cheated. Because all the other gurus only tell you it's no problem, do what you want, become more conditioned, use your senses, enjoy sex as much as you like, fine, you'll be okay, no problem. Who's to tell us what to do? So remember I was saying a few days ago, the women's rally, they go out, they all say, we can do whatever we want with our body, who are you to tell us? Who are you to tell us? We can do whatever we want. So consequences they don't know in the long run, but this is the reality. You can see it, Kali Yuga is going in what way. If you come back, or if you want to stay around, it's going to get just worse. If you think this is worse, come back in 10,000 years later. Yeah. Text 14.
So Prabhu, who is in a worse position? People who are after false gurus or people who are materialists?
False gurus.
They are worse, or people who are just sheer materialists?
False gurus are worse because they want some results, but they are cheated. Materialists, at least they are like karma kandis,
No knowledge is better than bad knowledge.
It's true though. If you have no knowledge, it's better.
There's a first story like a person who went to learn music.
Yeah, Switzerland has actually a music teacher or a famous institution. They go, they ask you, do you know music?
You have to give up. Yeah.
If you say yes, then you will pay more.
Yeah. Prabhupada gives that example also. Mridanga teacher. Like that. The guy says, I know everything. Oh, play? Okay, good. You paid
More.
20 rupees. You paid 10 rupees. Say, why? I'll have to teach you how to forget first. Yeah. So yeah, you are contaminated and you are way late into worse situation. Yeah.
If the materialist, if there's some sincerity there, then they might meet devotees.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a very dangerous place. You can be sincere and still be led by crazy people because you may not be that sincere.
Yeah.
Yeah. 14.
यदा तु परबाधयान्ध आत्मने नोपनामति तदा हि पितृपुत्र बर्हिषात्मः पितृपुत्रान् वा स खलु भक्षयति.
In this material world, when the conditioned soul cannot arrange for his own maintenance, despite exploiting others, he tries to exploit his own father or son, taking away that relative's possessions. Although they may be very insignificant, if he cannot acquire things from his father, son, other relatives, he is prepared to give them all kinds of trouble. This is real. It's real. Yeah. File lawsuit. Yeah. Few years ago, I was traveling in Asia. So this man was a billionaire. He had 6 sons. So he died, So then the 6 sons had lawsuits against one another, each of them. They had so much money, He gave all of them, but they were not happy. So they were fighting with among themselves,
I think even Prabhupada's sons, they tried to acquire.
It is,
claim his
yeah.
property.
We don't try to think of that too much because we don't know really what the Yoga Maya, how it's working in that situation. But for us to learn is, as you said, even great personalities are also harassed like that. So, but the best thing for us is receive information from Srimad Bhagavatam. So, therefore you all should read Srimad Bhagavatam. If you don't read Bhagavatam, how are you going to overcome Kali Yuga? When the first canto, what did the yes, Yes, yeah. Where has he gone and taken shelter? Yeah. Where has Krishna gone? That which has risen as the sun now and illuminating is the Srimad Bhagavatam. So we cannot ridicule the Bhagavatam. There are 5 things that give you pure love of God here. One of them is Srimad Bhagavatam. So anyone who ridicules that, you can just step away from them a little bit until they recover their consciousness. Alright, so and then what are the other 4? Deity worship, chanting,
living in the
holy place.
Association.
So try to do nicely this thing and you will get love of God here. Text 15.
क्वचित् आसाद्य गृहं धाववत् प्रियार्थविधुरम् असुकोदर्कं शोकाग्निना दह्यमानो वृषं निर्वेदम् उपगच्छति.
In this world, family life is exactly like a blazing fire in the forest. There's not the least happiness, and gradually one becomes more and more implicated in unhappiness. In household life, there's nothing favorable for perpetual happiness. Being implicated in home life, the conditioned soul is burned by the fire of lamentation. Sometimes he condemns himself as being very unfortunate, and sometimes he claims that he suffers because he performed no pious activities in his previous life. Now this is for people who have background, Vedic culture, because he thinks like that. But nowadays they don't have. So what happens when they cannot even justify their existence? They commit suicide. They kill other people because they think the whole thing is unfair. And if I can't be happy, why others have to be happy? Yeah. So therefore you see, this material existence, conditioned life is not something that we take it for granted. We should be very careful. Prabhupada says it's like a blazing forest fire here. If you don't believe me, go to California. A lot of fires there. Right? Multi-million-dollar houses go on fire and then they build again, same place. Because they think it won't come again. It's interesting, right? They know that the whole region will fire every now and then. Again and again the fire will come. But still they say, no, I may not suffer. Those guys suffer, I will not. I've seen also in documentaries where people cry. They say, all our savings are gone. And they cry, so pitiful to see that. But they all don't want to learn, When they are presented with reality, they cannot accept that. And that's why Prabhupada was trying to tell us the urgency to take this process. Once you know what the urgency is, you can at least share your urgency with others. You may not be able to convince others, but you can at least show them why you are serious about spiritual life. Yeah. Text 16.
क्वचित् कालविषमित राजा कुलरक्षसापाहृत प्रियतमा धनाशुः प्रम्रक्तक इव विगत जीव लक्षण आस्ते.
So here he says Rajakula Rakshasa Parita. These are government men. They are Rajakula. They are supposed to be administrators. Rajakula, right? Gurukula, Rajakula, like that. So Rajakula, they are supposed to be helping. But rather they are Rakshasa Parita. Rather they become like bloodsuckers, vampires, and they go after other people. They plunder other people's riches. So in the translation, government men are always like carnivorous demons called Rakshasas, man-eaters. Sometimes these government men turn against the conditioned soul and take away all his accumulated wealth. Being bereft of his life's reserved wealth, the conditioned soul loses all enthusiasm. Indeed, it is as though he loses his life. One of the things that you will read in the scripture, it says that wealth or money for a conditioned soul is as good as life itself, or even more than life itself. It means they rather die than give up the money. It's a reality, but then we don't seem to understand it, but it's reality. That's why a lot of time people, money or your life. The robber guy tells you. They're like, life, money. So they don't want to give up because they put so much effort into earning the money, so much blood they put in. So therefore they cannot give it up.
Whenever there's an emergency landing or the slide opens up on the airplane, I see the reports all the time because I work in an airline. It's people are supposed to leave everything back and run on the slide. Every single time they take all their bags along and they jump on.
Yeah, it's their wealth. Yeah, they're so attached to it.
Every single time.
Passport.
It doesn't matter. Yeah, your life or your passport.
Passport to go.
So Prabhupada says the word Rajakula Rakshasa is very significant, and he says Srimad Bhagavatam was compiled, means it was written down for us about 5,000 years ago, yet government men are referred to as Rakshasas or carnivorous demons. Interesting, no? It's a very interesting statement, which means there are people like that even at that time. Text 17.
Kadachin manoratau pagata pitru pitamahadhyasat sat iti swapna nivritti lakshanam anubhavati.
Sometimes a conditioned soul imagines that his father or grandfather has again come in the form of his son or grandson. In this way he feels the happiness one sometimes feels in a dream, and the conditioned soul sometimes takes pleasure in such mental concoctions. It's a fact though, I've heard it so many times. Growing up, people say, oh yeah, my grandfather has now taken birth in our family. Like that. They will be talking among themselves and you're listening, what is going on? You know? I mean, because we accept the fact of reincarnation, so it makes perfect sense. And why shouldn't he take birth as a cow or a donkey or a monkey somewhere? No, he has to take birth in the same family because he's such a glorious guy. So it is based on material things. They don't want them to go another place, attach so much. Nowadays it's based on what? Family. What says, right? What is it? Based on semen. So family lineage is prominent. That's how they like it. So it's like that. There's pleasure for them. Oh yeah, baby. It's a boy. Oh, it must be grandfather. It's a girl. Must be grandmother. So therefore they give the same name, grandfather's name, like that, right?
Yeah.
So common. Text 18.
Kvachit grihashrama karma chodanati bhara girim arukshamano loka vyasana karshitamanaha kantaka sarkara kshetram pravishan iva siddhati.
In household life, one is ordered to execute many yagnas and fruitive activities, especially the Vivaha Yagna, the marriage ceremony for sons and daughters, and the sacred thread ceremony. These are all the duties of Grihastha, and they are very extensive and troublesome to execute. They are compared to a big hill over which one must cross when one is attached to material activities. A person desiring to cross over these ritualistic ceremonies certainly feels pains like the piercing of thorns and pebbles endured by one attempting to climb a hill. Thus the conditioned soul suffers unlimitedly. That means a lot of responsibilities, heavy responsibilities, but it is because they want to have social position, So nowadays in India, that I read, is that one man, last year he married his daughter, he spent $1 billion.
Yeah,
Married his daughter?
For his marriage, for her marriage.
Oh yeah. Oh, that was in Bangalore. Yeah. Some Andhra guy, Reddy. Janardhan Reddy.
What is crazy guy, He could have spent the money for all the poor people.
He's from Canada. He's moved long back, right?
Doesn't matter what he is. He's a fool.
Andhra people.
You are not the body. Just fool. Just see.
In general, common man also, they
Same
spend
thing.
so much.
But we can
10 lakh, 20 lakhs.
see, we appreciate it from an extreme point. That means everyone is doing similar thing. Well, it's very difficult to arrange marriage nowadays.
But also,
That is
Oh,
the
he
game.
did that during this demonetization happened when it happened,
Ah,
and everybody were questioning, like Modi and all. They were asking, okay, you did demonetization, but this guy is paying $1 billion for his So they showed in the news that her invitation was a tablet, like an Android or something, and you press it, it will open and it will play music and.
really spend money.
And for people who came in for the marriage, I think he had arranged a bullock cart and
Bullock cart.
no, for getting them inside the mandapam
Okay.
from the gate.
Very traditional.
Traditional.
It's very expensive.
Definitely.
Therefore, the father or the mother is full of stress marrying a child, because so much is required.
By the way, he just came out of jail 1 year back.
Only in India this can happen, right? They used to say only in America. Now it's only in India.
Every country has their own uniqueness. Craziness.
Yeah, so you get invited by some marriage, then you see, my daughter will marry, must be the same, otherwise she won't be happy. So you get influence or more stress. So then you will say, I will work hard, I'll get more money, like that. And then you get invited to another place, and the guy is flying everyone by a parachute. And then your daughter will say, I only want to marry on top of Himalayas or something, and you are like, Ambo. Finish. Then you see the father hung himself in the room.
He's hanging in the paradise.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll stop here. You guys have to go for the party. Text 19 from tomorrow we'll do. Okay.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Prabhupada ki jai.
It's like a barrage.